Welcome, everyone. Today Lisa and I are going to talk a little bit about abundance, about living abundantly, and what that, some ideas around that. There's so much power that we have in the practice of living abundantly. There's so many ideas that we can use that it's almost like, okay, what do I think of first in living abundantly? And what does living abundantly actually mean to people? What does it mean? I feel like we live abundantly. I feel like we have the power, and I don't think I always felt that. I don't think that I always lived the principles that made me feel like I was living abundantly. But when I realize that I'm not this body, and that I can have an experience of letting go body ideas, body defects, the idea of sickness. I mean, if you look at today's workbook lesson, or tomorrow's workbook lessons, that sickness is a defense against the truth. And you read some of those statements that Jesus says in that's like amazing to me that Jesus says that when we get close to the truth, our mind kicks in, it gets fearful and kicks in and brings a sickness on us and instantly makes us forget that we did it, so that we're completely, and he calls it a double-blind oblivia. He says that when we get close to the truth, that we call on sickness to ourselves. And how many people have you heard of that picked up the course or started getting close to the truth? You can't believe how many people are in the 40-day program. They're yeah, I heard the 40-day program's going to be good. It's going to change me. And like 1 or 2 weeks in, they're going, oh my God, I lost my job. My girlfriend left me. I'm sick. And all of these things happen when you get close to the truth. And he also says that when you're doing this work, that when you're alert to those ideas, that you can stop and you can do something about it. He says that in that workbook lesson, that you invite the truth in for 15 minutes and just allow the self, allow the Holy Spirit to dissolve that idea that we have in the mind. And so living abundantly is really calling on all of these powers that we have. We have the power of, God dependency is a must in living abundantly, isn't it? God dependency is a must. And you have to come to a place where you absolutely trust that God will take care of you. I spent 25 years in the church reading the Bible, thinking that if I memorized the verses that I would get closer to God, and I couldn't be further from the truth. But coming to a place where I absolutely trust God, and I know that He is taking care of me, it's a whole brand new experience in my life. It came to me I didn't get it from the Bible, I got it from the Course, and it came to me from tithing. From when I started putting my money, and this isn't for tithing, this isn't to tell people that this happens to you, but it happened to me. When I began giving 10% and where I'm spiritually fed, when I began to do that, as an experiment. At first, when I started doing it, Lisa suggested that we do the Edwin Gaines class, and it was a tithing class at Unity on the river, and I said, I am not tithing. I did that, and I'm not doing it again. It's just guilt, or it's obligation, or whatever. And then she said, well, I'm doing it. And I thought, About a few days later, I thought, I picked up the Edwin Gaines book. I think she had it sitting out, and I started looking at it. I thought, I got a hit that said, try this as an experiment. And when I started tithing as an experiment, all of a sudden, for the first time, I felt really good about it because I had a different mindset. It wasn't because somebody was saying I need to support the church. It was because I was trying an experiment of just seeing what would happen in just supporting the flow of circulation with my money. Because, let's face it, does anyone here not have fear around money? Does anyone not have fear around money? I think everybody does. I think everybody on the planet has fear around money. What is that? That's energy. That's a thought. That's a feeling. And that energy, as soon as you're checking prices. Oh, I got to find the best price. What's happening with that energy? It's going out into the universe, and the universe is saying, oh, this person wants deals. They want a lifestyle where they have to live on deals. Or one of my old favorites for me was to negotiate. I am a negotiator. Will you take this? Will you take less? Or somebody give me a price and I'd say, well, will you take this amount? So what was I doing? I was devaluing my abundance. And I was, and this whole thing was, and I'm wanting to give my brother, who is me, less money. So I'm sending that vibration out into the universe. That's not living abundantly. So what I've started doing is, first of all, I started tithing. And sometimes it's hard to tithe. When you have, when you're going to when you've got $2,000 that come in, and you're going to take $200 off the top, or $1,000, you're going to take $100 off the top. That still, it's not so much hard for me now, but I still see the feeling of it. I still see the feeling of giving up the 100 or the 200 or whatever. But now I find that it's easier and easier to make that decision, to make that movement, to tithe. Why? Because in Malachi 3:10, in the Old Testament, the prophet Malachi said that God inspired him with the words. It says to give 10% of what comes, your first fruits, and see if I will not pour out the windows of heaven in abundance to fill the storehouse. And I just decided that I would try that. And when I started doing it, all of a sudden new ideas come in, and I totally live in a state of abundance, knowing now that God is my source in everything that I do, and I know that God is your source. And also I've had the experience of, we took the Edwin Gaines class, we took Keys to the Kingdom, Mary Morrissey a couple of times, we taught the class a couple of times, we've done all of these prosperity and abundance ideas, and we brought them into our lives, and now we live those ideas. And when you start to look at some of the cool things that happen from just testing these ideas, that's just one aspect of it. That was the aspect of it that taught me how to trust. The idea of tithing teaches me, it keeps me reminded that there's energy in this money that I don't want. I don't want the energy of lack. I don't want the energy of fear. And I got to tell you something, tithing will make you look at the fear around money. So that's just one part of it. The main part of it that I'm going to talk about, Lisa's going to come up in a minute, and she's going to talk about two other parts of living abundantly. The two parts that I just wanted to talk about was trusting God, and I use tithing all the time because that was my lesson to teach me to trust God. And it has taught me to trust God in a whole brand new way. God dependency, and then forgiveness. Forgiveness has to go hand in hand with living abundantly. And forgiveness is practiced as soon as you start to give. Now, it's easy to give because you love someone. And you say, oh, let me give this to you. I want you to have this. That's easy to give. It's harder to give when you've got $200 and you're just going to give 20 to something that you have no control over, or you have $2,000 and you're just going to give 200 to something there's no thank you. I mean, there might be a thank you, but you can't give it to get. You can't give it to get a thank you, so somebody will know how generous you are and how cool you are, and the ego will slip right in behind your gift and say, look what I did. And you have to dissolve that idea right away. And you dissolve the idea, the fear around giving money. You dissolve the idea of, look at me, look what I did, see how generous I am. You have to notice those thoughts, what you want. The body that wants to be identified is the imposter. And that's the thought that you notice and you put on the altar, and that's using forgiveness as a tool so that we don't live under the tyranny of the energy that comes around money or giving. And just know that giving and receiving it's the laws of circulation being exercised all the time in what we do with our money. Forgiveness is a really important principle in letting go of your fear around money. Also, if you have forgiveness, if you have grievances against people, that's going to block your good. You can want abundance all day long, but if you're holding grievances against your partner or your family members or yourself, or situations that are just causing energy, it'll block your good, and you can tithe till the cows come home, and the blessings won't flow your way because you're holding grievances against a brother. The universe gets that vibration also. So I just wanted to share those couple of ideas. There's about 10 or 15 very powerful laws around living abundantly. We were going to share 4 of them with you today. The power of God's certainty, the power of forgiveness. Lisa's going to talk about living in certainty, and also goal setting and visioning, which is so much fun. If you look at we have a bunch of vision cards that we fill out. We keep these around all the time, and I write them in my journal too. You can't believe how many things that we have written down that are actually have taken place in our lives. And if you think back, you guys can remember when you had a dream in your mind, you had an image in your mind about something that you would love to do, or a place to go, or some situation that you would love to have an experience with in your mind, and all of a sudden it became a reality in your life. It was started right here as a thought. And we have the power of living our inheritance. We have the power of thought, and we can live. We can go from waking up from a dream of suffering and feeling like we're separate from God, and we can have a happy dream. Now, that's not why we do it. We have to keep our priority straight, that we put God first. Seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. But we have built-in default hard drives that tells us to in our subconscious, we don't even know what's going on. It's going on in the background, and it's leading us into making decisions that are not really for our good, and they're not really for someone else's good. But the power that we have, I'm just going to give you about 10 of them real quick. We have God dependency, the power of giving and receiving, the power of thoughts. All thoughts have power. Jesus says that in the Course. All thoughts have power. Wow, that means I need to be paying attention and be very alert of my thoughts. The power of forgiveness is like amazing. The power of forgiveness eliminates and dissolves the things that block my good and that keep me from having the joy, the inner peace, and the happiness that's actually my inheritance. The power of intention, setting goals, the power of certainty, the power of desire. We have an innate, built-in desire to co-create, to create with the universe, and if we don't know that and we don't know how to do it, then we're just going to be asleep, and we're not going to realize that we have these powers available so that we can live a happy experience, we can live in abundance, we can live in joy and peace. And then we have the power of decision, the power of mind. As you look within, that's what you see outside. And then we also have the power of love, which is the most powerful thing that we have available. And I love the power of love the most, because that's what we did when we started out this morning, and we sent love to all of the people in our lives. You can send love to anything. You can send love to a rock. You can send love to bugs. You can send love, and it's powerful. I mean, truly. You can't, and you know, ever since I found the Course, I don't know if this happens to you, ever since I found the Course, I don't like to kill bugs.
Yeah, no.
Isn't that weird? I don't like to kill bugs. And I used to have no problem stepping them out, but now I bless them. Now I bless them, I give them my love. They can be a little annoying, and I haven't really conjured up the power to say, okay, fly. Sometimes I do say, fly, if you don't leave, I am going to kill you. And then I do, but so I don't really know how to be in touch with, but I do know that everything, we are connected to everything.'re connected to inanimate objects, bugs, carpet, clothing. We're somehow energetically connected to everything. Even if it's not breathing, we're connected with it. I know I've had that experience. I've had an experience with a rock and with a plate and with a piece of wood. And I know that I'm one with that. And I know that, like, you are one with the chair that you're sitting on. And so that these laws are so powerful. I'm so grateful that we have the understanding and the ability to live in these truths, to live, to know that we have an ability to send love to people and situations. Like, I know that Elaine and Linda had a profound effect on Bob Dondero and others as well. Because, the Course teaches us that we can take our brother's belief and we can put it on the altar for him or her. And it has a powerful effect on that situation. So love to me is like the most powerful, because it just transforms things. I have a situation with one of my kids that's not so good. And what I find myself doing, I did it this morning. I just came to a place, the Holy Spirit reminded me that I needed to send him love, and I just was sending my son love. I was just pouring love out to my son, and I do it and it doesn't have to be a family member. It just happens, it drops in, we get the assignment, okay, send love. So to me, that's what living abundantly is. Using the power of God's laws for the good of everyone. And that is living abundantly. And we have tools in our tool chest where we can have a whole brand new experience. And I think that's what draws people to want to know about these ideas. It's what draws people to want to know about the truth that sets you free. So I'm going to ask Lisa to come up and share on two of the laws that I mentioned, and please welcome Lisa.
Hello. Well, I kill bugs no problem.
Hello?
No.
It's on. Is it up? Yeah, it's up. Okay.
Hello? Hello, hello?
Better.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, so Bill and I just, we're working on a book right now, and our whole life was transformed by these ideas from A Course in Miracles, and then we added on abundance ideas. And so we were just looking at how do you really communicate this simply so everybody can do it? Like, how can you teach these ideas? And so we came up with these just 4 basics of acknowledging God, living in God dependency, forgiveness, setting the goal, deciding the outcome, and then living in certainty and purpose. And when I think about what happened to me, it didn't start with the tithing, although that was the first action step. I know, like, a lot of people hear us talking. They've seen what's happened to our lives, moving out of poverty into just living this life that we've been intentional about. And they start tithing and they say it's not working. So I've really been looking at that idea. Like, was it the tithing that did it? And it was and it wasn't. Because the first thing that I did when I took that Edwin Gaines class was make a decision to shift and to be a person who was totally abundant, totally rich, completely generous, trusting God. So I made the shift first, and I decided I was going to do it as an experiment for 5 weeks during that Edwin Gaines class. And then I tithed from that place. So I shifted. The shift comes first. So what a lot of people do is they're standing in their poverty thinking and lack and limitation and think, I'll give 10% of my money where I'm spiritually fed. And then nothing happens because they never moved. A miracle is a shift in perception. This is what A Course in Miracles says. It moves you from the place where you think you are to where you have always been and never left, where God is. And so that, to me, was the first step, is I said, I don't trust God. That was the first place of honesty where I really saw, I say I trust God, but obviously I don't, because I'm still planning for my own safety and comfort here in time and space. And I just said, what have I got to lose by testing these ideas out? You need to test them. You have to move out of the conceptual into the direct experience of these ideas from A Course in Miracles. And then of course the forgiveness is the purification that A Course in Miracles talks about, the place where you're dismantling your entire body identity and allowing yourself to be spirit. And what Jesus says in A Course in Miracles is that forgiveness is the only thing you have in your world of darkness and despair that is going to stop the illusion in its tracks. So forgiveness isn't in the thought system of love. It's not there. You don't need it there. Where forgiveness is needed is in the thought system of lack and limitation and fear. So those were the first 2. And then the ones I'm going to talk about is setting the goal and deciding on the outcome and living in certainty and purpose. So I've been thinking about, like, I've come up for myself with this sort of 4-step process for healing, for abundance, and it follows similar to the 4 that we've been talking about. But the first one, it is acknowledge God. That is absolutely the first step, and that Jesus was demonstrating it. Jesus said, without the Father, I am nothing, I can do nothing. You hear, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you. So you are acknowledging this presence and power with you, and you're joining with it. So you make no decisions by yourself anymore. Without the Father, I am nothing. I am in lack and poverty. And then the second step is what I'm going to talk about today, is decide on the outcome. And then the last two steps, it's just a simple little process that I use in my own mind. Acknowledge God, decide on the outcome. Step 3, go there, go to the outcome. Step 4, stay there. That's it. Acknowledge God, decide on the outcome, go there, stay there. That's it. That's my abundance formula. Now, what happens with people when they start this, there's a lot of dismantling around step 3. Step 3, go there, is the shift. You're shifting out of the thought system. And Jesus says that this is a thought reversal, and everything is going to move in your world when you do this. So that's why the trust is important. That's why the first step is acknowledge God and join with Christ, or join with your guide, or join with the Holy Spirit, whatever word you acknowledge as this presence and this power. And the second step is crucial. Decide on the outcome, set the goal. Nothing can happen without that step. Nothing. And you're already using it in your life. You might not realize it, but on a very basic level, you might be sitting at home and you might think what you would like for dinner. You know, I'd like salmon and sweet potatoes and asparagus. And you have no problem realizing you have to get in your car and go to the supermarket and buy it. That's not a big deal for you. But when you think of things like sickness or abundance, you make a big deal about it. You don't have a vision. Like, you're all sitting here this morning because you set a goal. Somewhere you had a vision that you were going to be here on a Friday morning, and you came. You got dressed, you took a shower, you ate your breakfast, you got in your car, and you drove here. And no one thinks that's a big deal, right? Except for maybe Henry, who drove an hour and 45 minutes, and we love you for it. But he was determined. All of us were determined, and we set a vision, and we moved. So then you might have like a slightly bigger goal that you want to go to California this year. That's also not a big deal for most people, because you think, okay, but why am I going? Where am I going to stay? I need a plane ticket, or am I going to drive? So you set the destination, you set a point, and you then allow yourself to take the steps to get there. But when it comes to healing sickness, you don't set the outcome. So in How is Healing Accomplished in the Teacher's Manual, it says, decide on the outcome. Yes?
Deciding on the outcome, I get confused because the lesson, I don't know what's in my best interest. So, like, how do you...
But you do know what's...
Contradicts, you know?
Right, but remember, A Course in Miracles is a systematic way to move, to shift you. So in the beginning, like, that's a very good starting point. I don't know what anything is for. But you could tell me something right in this moment you say, what do you want?
Well, like, I think I want so many weddings booked. But then I think, well, and I'm not even close to what I want to have booked. And so I think, all right, well, maybe the universe has something better coming.
Right, but so what's happening is what you just described is, so you are in a cloud of confusion, and so instead of just deciding, yes, that is what I want, that would be fun, and then allowing yourself to shift, because every single thing that we encounter in time and space is not for the thing itself. to be a wedding photographer, to live anywhere. That's not what the thing is for. The thing is to move you out of that place of confusion that you're sitting in into a place of certainty. You see? So it's like that's the shift that you really want. So I don't know what anything is for. That's why you don't know what anything is for. It's not about being a wedding photographer or having a relationship, or it's about the shift. Because once you make the decision and you start moving, you're moving. And then as you move towards it, like when I was at the academy in Wisconsin Dells, my teacher Greta, she said to me, if you have an idea in your mind, you should just play it out. Do it totally, head on, do it. And as you're moving towards it, you're actually going to realize, I didn't want to do this. I don't really want to do this. And things start to fall away until there's only God. So all we're doing here is we're playing out our ideas in time and space. But while you're sitting, how long have you been wondering what you should do in this space of trying to figure out what God wants for you? Or
Well, you kind of answered my question indirectly, because I was sitting here thinking, is it really the weddings you want, or is it the money you want? And it's the money I want. So if I set a goal like, all right, I want to make this much money, then leave it up to the universe, like how that will occur, then maybe that's how I should.
But see, why the lesson is, I don't know what anything is for, is because you don't even know that it's the money that you want. You think it's what you want. But Jesus is going to take you to the next level when he's going to show you what you really want is to be at peace. You want to be happy. So that we've all set up an idea that a job will bring money. Do you see what I'm saying? So now instead, you're just allowing yourself to decide on an outcome. It could be anything. But as soon as you decide on the outcome, this is what I'm doing, you will start moving towards it, and you're shifting out of the thought system of fear. And so just recently, I read everything. I read all the time. In case you guys don't know it, I love reading. And I've just been very curious about how people on a practical level do it in their life, shifting out of one condition into another condition. And so I was looking, I Googled self-made multimillionaires. I wanted to know how did they do it? And I found this study, I think it's a book actually now, where they studied self-made multimillionaires, and they questioned them, what did you do? Almost all of them made a decision to be a multimillionaire. That was the first step. And then they started studying the habits of other multimillionaires, and they started doing those things. So they got out of their poverty thinking, and they developed new habits that moved them into this other place where those experiences were already happening. So that's just one example. But so to relate it to A Course in Miracles, I have decided to be the light of the world. You have to make a decision for that. And then everything that you do will support that decision. I have decided to be spirit. Or you decide, it's in how is healing accomplished. Decide on the outcome. I have decided I'm whole and perfect. That's my decision. I have decided I'm not a body, like you have that memory. And then what happens is that's when the whole dismantling starts to occur. Because when you make that decision, everything that's still buried in you starts to rise to your awareness, and now it's in your experience. So I'm whole and perfect. Immediately the mind says, no, you're not. You're fat. You have this pain in this area. You have this whatever. And so the mind starts to tell you otherwise, but that's what needed to come up. So now you're really saying, this is the journey. This is the journey now where I am going to make a commitment that once I've made a decision of the outcome, I'm not going back. And that's what Jesus did in the desert for the 40 days. He made a decision that he was going to come to know his identity in God. He didn't even know what that was. But he just made this decision. And then the shift began to occur. And that's a place of a lot of fear. Because then you're going to, like when Bill and I did that 5-week experiment, it caused me to shift every single aspect of the way I live my life. Like from start to finish. And it was just a game I was playing. That's the best part. You don't have to take it seriously. You just like, Garco, I was thinking about you this morning driving down here. Garco is a perfect demonstration of somebody who made a decision to expand himself. Like, I can remember when I met you, there was a lot of like wishing and waiting and wondering and how come no one's looking at me for my music. And you have taken steps that, like, you got into living in purpose, you paid the money, you're doing your music, you're setting time for that, you're networking, it's just, and that's just something you've decided on, and I love it because you start to see it's not about sitting around hoping your life changes. Everything you want is here and now. You just have to go to the place where it is. Like while you're sitting around wondering where your great health is, it's already here. But you're sitting in a space of, dark energy and confusion. And all you have to do is shift. That's why healing doesn't take any time. How long does it take to shift your thinking? Doesn't take any time at all. How long does it take to be as God created you? No time at all. And I think everyone in this room has probably had the experience when you were telling me, Henry, this morning. Henry was telling me the story. He's been in an ego place for 9 months. And just one day, it's like you snap out of it. That's enough of that. That is enough of that. And that's how simple it is. And so Jesus says in A Course in Miracles that there's a shortening process and there's a speed up that happens, and that the more individuals that join together in this place, it's in chapter 1, the faster it's going to be for all of us because there's only one mind. And he said, but these individuals must emerge from conflict sooner than they would have if they are to bring God's peace to others. So I have to do that. I move out of conflict by a decision I have made. I move out of poverty thinking, I move out of lack, I move out of complaining, I move out of criticism, I move out of condemnation, I move out of every idea that I don't want. I just say, I'm done with it, and I walk away from it. And then what Jesus says, to Lot's wife, don't look back. Thus you be turned into a pillar of salt. So you just rise up out of the ashes of your own limited, fearful, small self, and you just say, okay, I'm going to take the first step. I'm done with that, and I guarantee you, the second you make that decision, all your worst terror is going to rise right up in your face. And all the questions, how is it going to work? How is it going to happen? How am I going to live this way? And so the fourth step, living in certainty and living in purpose, it's a decision. That's the fourth part on my formula for healing and abundance. Stay there. You just become so focused and deliberate of the way you're thinking, the way you're feeling. You know, one of the things I loved on this list of habits of multimillionaires is, and it was a very practical list, they're very focused, but it said that they talk less and listen more. And it said they don't say everything that's on their mind. It said people in poverty thinking say everything that's on their mind. But people who are multimillionaires, who have learned how to be deliberate, is that they're conscious of their thinking and the effects that their thinking and their emotions have on the world that they're living in. And I love that, because now I used to just blurt everything out in anger and frustration and criticism and how you should change. I don't do that anymore. Why? Because I made a decision I don't do that anymore. And so now what you're doing is just seeing how you actually can live and stay in this place of love. And you will know when you slide back by the way you feel. You'll instantly feel it, and you'll just know it. And the miracle brings you back to the place where you're like, oops, slid off the mark. Yes?
Can I just share? I still feel
Yeah, of course.
I just started January 1st. Course in Miracles is new to me, although the concepts are not. But I'm wrestling with ego constantly. And today is perfect for me. I struggle with the whole abundance thing. But I have this new thing, and maybe it is really Holy Spirit in my mind. I don't know. But one of my favorites I've been trying to delete is,
Do you want to come up here?
Can everybody hear me? Or do you want? Okay. When I struggle with the whole abundance thing, one of my favorite thoughts that I'm trying to delete is, I have no money. And I hear this voice say, and so it is. What? Just kidding. You know, and so then I replace it with, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So it is. And I don't know, maybe it is Holy Spirit, or I don't know where it came from, but I'm really thankful for it. So whenever my ego gives me that little shot, and I hear, and so it is, it kind of scares the ego right out of me. Anyway, that's what's working for me.
That's perfect. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Like, I'm just going to share one more story. Like, I was thinking about all the major shifts that happened in my life over the years. Whenever there was a really big shift, when I went to college, you know, I had been living in Vermont, had no money. That's a story of my life. I have no money. And I just saw, I was working as a waitress, and I thought, I can't continue to do this anymore. I'd already gotten 1 degree, and now I'm waiting on tables, and I had no money to go anywhere else. And I just made a decision, I'm going back to college. And I ended up, within 3 months, I'm in Florida working towards my bachelor's degree. And then there was when I moved to New York, when I moved to Wisconsin, to the academy, every single time there was a shift, the first thing was a decision. And I can remember, I've told this story before, but I was living in Wisconsin when I always had $2. I mean, I couldn't even put gas in my car. I would have to hitch rides with people. I mean, not with friends, but I would constantly and I would tell myself, it's okay. I don't need money. And one of the things that we, learned in the Edwin Gaines class is money hears you. I don't need you. If you told that to a person, they'd be like, oh, fine, I'll come around. And you say, I don't need money, I don't want money. And I was living in this place, and I was constantly complaining about the room I was living in. It was an old motel, and I just thought, why am I living in this place? And Greta, my friend, she just busted me one day. She's like, get over yourself. You are so ungrateful. She said, the universe can't give you more until you are totally grateful for the space you're living in. And that day, I took all the money I had, which was maybe $20 on that day. I drove to the Walmart. I spent every last dime I had on cleaning supplies. I went back to that room and I just totally just cleaned it top to bottom and fell in love with it. I just saw like, oh, this is a really nice room actually. You know, I had this big window where the sun came in and a great bed so I shifted my thinking. And very quickly after that is when I got the invitation to move to a bed and breakfast on 10 acres in a big house and money. And not that any of that matters, but that's a demonstration of when you shift your thinking, the pictures that were coming from your mind change. And of course, once I was in that big house, I was there for 2 years maybe. It was great. But even that ends. Like, you have no attachments anymore as a teacher of God. You don't want the things of the world anymore. You're just flowing through time and space, and you're really seeing like, okay, wow, what do I really want? What I really want is to inspire people to make the shift. And so that's what I said. I decided, Bill and I decided, and it's not because of the nonprofit, but we decided, let's start an organization that inspires people to do A Course in Miracles, know God, and be happy. And then we go there and we stay there. End of story. You don't sit around waiting, I wonder how it's going to happen. In the same way, I don't wonder how I'm going to get, dinner on the table. So it really is just starting to see the simplicity of these ideas now and how quickly you can do them. So I thank you all. We're going to take a break.
Yep. Oh, okay. Oh, it's about 3 minutes till. We have we're gonna. I wanted to play a song real quick. Do you mind?
No, not at all.
This song is came to a friend. Actually, she used to be a partner with Mary Morrissey. Her name is Karen Joyce, and Karen Joyce was she was doing the prosperity work with Mary Morrissey, and she used to be into like walking and jogging and stuff, and she was doing her jogging and walking routine one day, and she recognized that her mind was running these stories in it, stories of doubt about a situation that was coming up, and she wanted to buy a house, and she saw all these doubt thoughts, and the doubt thoughts come to us because we allow, and they play out because we allow them to do that. When when you start to be awakened to the truth, your radar turns on. All of a sudden, your radar turns on, and you have a choice when that radar picks up something, a blip, blip, blip. You have a choice because, Jesus says in the Course, I was just talking to Kelly about this, the power of decision is the one remaining freedom that we have in time and space. And when a blip comes up, whether it's a charge from something that someone said to us, or a situation of doubt, or a fear thought, anything energetically, your radar's noticing that. You get the slightest little sigh, and you feel it. You notice it. Very alert to that. Well, Karen Joyce became very alert of these doubt thoughts, these hesitations, and these places where she was putting limits on what she could do based on her present circumstances. She saw this doubt thought, and she decided, she just stopped. She said, "Excuse me, I'm getting a message from my soul that says, excuse me, I'm not going to accept that." And this song was written based on that awareness.
Excuse me, but I interrupt this broadcast with a message, from my soul. But I interrupt this broadcast with a message from my soul. Excuse me, but I interrupt nothing on me. You ain't got nothing on me. You ain't got nothing on me. Because I claim prosperity. I claim prosperity. I choose abundance. I'm feeling wealthy. Excuse me, but I interrupt this broadcast with a message from my soul. Excuse me, but I interrupt this broadcast with a message from my soul. See, I am a child of God and I deserve to have everything I want.
Yeah, isn't that good? So, we have that power. Excuse me. I interrupt this broadcast with a message from my soul. Okay. So anyway, that's important stuff, you guys. I'll give you some insight of how meaningful that message is to me next week.